The European Union is back to threatening Caribbean citizenship by investment countries that they will revoke their visa-free travel. Now, I think a lot of people don't understand the nuance of this situation, and they think, hey, forget getting a second passport. If I can't go to Europe, it's not worth it. I'm going to tell you what's happening. I'm going to tell you the European Union's latest threat, and I'm going to give you my nuanced opinion of how you should handle getting a second passport at a time when the US and the EU are going rogue. My name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist and the author of the book Nomad Capitalist. I'm here on location in Portugal doing some work this week. Wanted to get some of the latest industry news to you, and that is the so-called coming EU travel ban. Let's not blow this out of proportion yet. I'm going to share this story with you, but here is the takeaway. I'll give you the takeaway in advance. No matter what small countries that would like to offer you an advantage, whether it is a place to store your wealth, whether it is a second passport, whatever it may be, small countries that have to be competitive, that are offering you a plan B, it is never going to be satisfactory to legacy brand, high-tax countries like the US, blocs like the European Union. They simply don't want competition. So I'm going to tell you after reading the article how I would handle this. I have a Caribbean citizenship by investment. I'm not rushing to get rid of it. I'm not worried about it, but I'm going to tell you the nuanced facts here. Now, we saw Marco Rubio was in some of the Caribbean countries recently, and he talked about Antigua and Barbuda, for example. They're one of the 5 countries in the Eastern Caribbean that has a citizenship program. He says, oh, they're kind of, they're affecting U.S. national security. And the folks in Antigua came back and said, well, we do stronger background checks on people who get citizenship than even the United States government does to issue visas. And our citizens cannot go to the United States without getting a visa. Now, if you're dual British and Antigua citizen, you can go as a British citizen. Being Antigua doesn't stop you from going to the U.S. But if all you have is an Antigua and Barbuda passport, you can't even go to the U.S. without getting screened by them. I mean, everybody gets screened by the U.S. What's really the issue of a country that's in the Eastern Caribbean offering citizenship to boost their economy? How does that affect U.S. national security? The issue is, quite frankly, it is a smokescreen for we don't like competition. We are, in the United States, putting our citizens into the most toxic position possible with the tariffs and the trade war and everything else. And by the way, I would have said the same stuff under Biden and Obama as well. And we don't want our citizens to have an escape hatch. So we're going to go around prattling on about national security, as is the European Union. Here's the headline from the trade publications. EU Parliament Committee, it's a committee, advances proposal to cut visa-free access for citizenship by investment countries. Now, as in the United States, there's a lot of proposals. They make it through a committee. They die on the floor of Congress. They never get through. This could be one of those, but I want to tell you what it is. The European Parliament's Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs has voted to approve amendments to EU visa regulations that would explicitly target countries offering citizenship by investment, CBI programs, potentially endangering visa-free access to Europe for numerous nations, including the so-called Caribbean 5, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, which was the one that kind of escaped this U.S. travel ban list that we talked about recently, as well as my passport in St. Lucia. Draft report from the committee outlines amendments to a regulation which governs visa requirements for entry into the European Union, and the committee voted 41-10 with 21 abstentions to approve these changes. The report identifies CBI programs as a direct threat to EU security. One, not complaint people have, but one thing that people ask about every once in a while is citizenship by investment programs in the Caribbean have sometimes revoked people's citizenship for committing crimes or getting into trouble long after they got the passport. And it begs a question. If you moved to another country and got naturalized, and then 5 years after that you committed a crime, would they take your citizenship away? Now, listen, I'm against committing crimes, and I don't care who knows it. And I think, obviously, you should operate with the highest ethics you can. But the fact that, a country that offers citizenship by investment, you get it. And then later you have an issue that they go back at the behest of certain Western countries, and even sometimes like India, for example, and they send those people back and they cancel their passports. I mean, people have said, hey, how do I know they won't cancel my passport? I think you know by being an upstanding citizen and not engaging in flim-flammery. But the idea that you go through this robust background check, I've been through the process. They ask you about everything. And our companies now an agent for the Citizenship by Investment program in the South Pacific in Nauru. We are a licensed agent there. And someone asked me, are you going to go through the program yourself, Andrew? And I'd be happy to, and I'd be happy to pay. But I lead a very international life. I've lived so many places. I have so many passports. The amount of apostilles and police reports and all kinds of stuff I have to collect. I think last time when I was going to try and apply in Antigua with some family, we spent about $15,000 collecting documents and getting it stamped and sealed and everything because of my international life. I don't have the time to do that. And so I'd love to be a citizen of Nauru, and we can now help our clients among dozens of other countries become citizens of Nauru as well as the Caribbean. But you have to go through so much stuff. The idea that the European Union, which, getting a Schengen tourist visa, I mean, they check a few things. They ain't going that deep into your history. Even to move there, I mean, to get a golden visa in a Schengen country, they don't go that deep into your history. If you marry a European citizen and move somewhere in Europe, and then you go to apply for citizenship by marriage or by naturalization in the future, they ain't doing the kind of checks that a CBI country is. And so the idea that the US or the EU would say this is a threat to their security, to me, again, only a smokescreen for reducing your options. So I want to say that a second time because I want that to stick with you. Why would a country want to reduce your options, and how do you respond to that? And so the article goes on, and it talks about how people who get citizenship in these countries have not established a genuine link, and it's true. Most people do not go to their Caribbean citizenship by investment country. These are passports you can get really without leaving the house, as long as you can collect your documents. One thing that we do for our clients is I think we have one of the best services that I designed, because I hate collecting documents. We designed a service that our clients who've gone to other companies to get their second passport come and say, wow, your service is more thorough. You do more of the heavy lifting for me. If you'd like our help, we offer more passport options than pretty much any company, and I think we do more of the heavy lifting for you without any of the internal biases. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. But why would a country not, perhaps your country, perhaps you're a European citizen, perhaps you're a U.S. citizen, why would your country not want you to have a passport? Why would they want to make it harder? Why would they want to make it more expensive, which is what they did back in 2023? Why would they want to do that? And why, after barely a year ago, that these countries in the Caribbean agreed, okay, we'll now interview everyone who's getting citizenship. I was never interviewed because my application was really clean. I had pretty much nothing that would have stood out. So they never called me for an interview. If I were to get St. Lucia citizenship today, I would pay twice the price. I'd have to go to an interview. Okay, big deal. You go to an interview, it's not the end of the world. But they're making it more difficult because they don't want you to have the options. And so it is true that while a St. Lucian citizen or an Antiguan citizen cannot go to the United States without a visa, yes, these countries, you can go to the Schengen area, you can go to Ireland in 4 out of 5 cases, and you can go to the UK in 4 out of 5 cases without getting a visa. Now, they can still screen you when you're there, and Europe is rolling out its ETIAS, its pre-authorization program, and the UK is rolling out its ETA, where you got to fill out a form in advance. I mean, how many things do these countries need before their security is insured? And why would someone who wants to go and pay $200,000 plus to get a backup passport, let's say you are American, let's say you're from wherever, if you have the money and if you've got a clean record, how are you a security threat more than people that are just coming on in or getting residence permits? Well, here's what I think you need to know. You need to know that I've said for some time, there's going to come a time when you have to make a choice. Now, the good news in Europe is because it is a borderless Schengen area, there are numerous options for, let's say, residence permits and golden visas that allow you to have the continued access to where you're in the good graces of Europe. And so here in Portugal, for example, you can get a golden visa by making an investment, and they will run you through their process, which I've been through both. The process I went through in Portugal was not as intense as the one I went through in St. Lucia. They did not ask for as many documents. They did not check as many things. So if you want to ensure your continued access to Europe, number one, let's say you're an American or Canadian and you just want a second passport as a backup plan from your country, you can still go to these countries as an American or as a Canadian. They are perhaps going to start asking what all your citizenships are when you fill out the form before you travel, once they finally roll that out in the EU. I guess now in 2027, it's been delayed 4 or 5 times. Will they hold it against you? I don't know. But no matter what happens, I mean, there are golden visa options that you can get. You can also just go to Malta and you can get their 18-month citizenship program. It's going to cost you a little over $1 million now with the euro strengthening against the dollar. Now you've got a passport, and now they really can't get rid of you. So there are numerous options for getting a golden visa, a residence by investment. Malta's passport technically isn't a citizenship by investment, but it's relatively close to that. It's still a bit longer process. You do need to actually go to Malta for a short period of time. But you can get a residence permit or a passport. And then the fact that you're a Caribbean citizen, well, you're not going to be going as a Caribbean citizen unless it's on a golden visa or you have a different passport. One thing everyone should check is, do you have citizenship by ancestry? Italy just made this harder. Do you have an Irish grandparent? Do you have an Italian grandparent? Do you have a Slovak great-grandparent, Lithuanian, Latvian, whatever? You can get a European passport, and then again, you're in, right? Whatever other passports you have, you're one of them, and they really won't be able to keep you out. And so let's talk about the rest of the world. I do think there's going to come a time when you have to choose, do I want access to the U.S. Or not? Now, if you're already an American, you might choose to have other passports, and that'll be fine. But if you want to give up the U.S. passport, listen, there may come a time when they say, hey, we don't like people who got Caribbean citizenship. We talked about that in one of our biggest videos ever recently, where, there was talk of a travel ban. Now, the State Department walked it back, but there was talk of, hey, we're going to make it harder to get a visa if you're Antiguan. And so I do think that a lot of people should be working towards a Tier A passport eventually. Again, citizenship by ancestry, or getting something in Malta, or maybe you open a big business or make a big donation, millions of euros worth in Austria, they might give you the passport. But I do think there's going to come a time, has been legacy brand countries, I mean, the U.S., I think, leading the pack, are going to be judgmental. You know who's not judgmental? The UAE, Singapore. I mean, I was just in the UAE. I use a passport. They don't care. They're like, hey, did you meet the criteria to come in? Or, hey, did you meet the criteria to get a golden visa? Are you not a criminal? Do you not have HIV? Please come right in. We want more people. Please, what can we do for you? That's an entirely different approach, because they're heading in the right direction. They love competition. They're benefiting. Look at how great the UAE and Singapore and other countries like that have become. Even Malaysia, we host Nomad Capitalist Live. Please come on in, put some money in the bank. We'd love to have you. That's not the approach the U.S. takes. And I think Europe does take more that approach, but there's always these politicians saying, well, if you get this Caribbean passport, we don't like you. Listen, you can mitigate against Europe as long as you get, some other passport, or as long as you get some European golden visa. If you just go in and get a Turkish passport, we had a few clients, they were American, they renounced U.S. citizenship to become only Turkish. Now you have geopolitical issues, where I just interviewed a guy the other day. He's Turkish. He's got a 5-year Schengen visa. But, if you're just a digital nomad with only a Turkish passport, that may prove harder. And by the way, embassies in Turkey, some people were waiting over a year to get those visas. So if you're just going to have one passport and it doesn't have visa-free travel to the places you want to go, that is an issue. But my thought is, you want to have, in Europe, if Europe's important to you, either get a citizenship by some means or get some kind of golden visa. Or if you can't afford either of those, or you don't have the ancestry, go and live in a European country. Ireland, tax-friendly, speaks English, get citizenship in 5 years. You can do that by starting a business if you've got a critical skill and hiring one other person. It's a relatively affordable way to go about and doing that. Look at your spouse. I mean, if you have a spouse, or you're planning on having a spouse who's European, you may be able to get a passport in some European countries, like Italy, without even having to live there. And so there's numerous different ways to skin this. But I think there will come a time that in some small areas, you'll have to make a choice. Do you want freedom over your wealth, over your body, over your family, over your freedom to go where you want? Or do you want to have access to the U.S.? I think the Europe travel ban can be mitigated if you follow my approach and you build a holistic plan, and you don't just go to some company selling a Caribbean passport as a catch-all. It's one and done. We've never recommended that. The U.S., maybe Canada and Australia at some point, join this. Maybe a couple other countries like that. They could be difficult and say, yeah, we don't like people with Caribbean passports. And I've told you for years, there may come a time you have to make a choice. Okay. Again, not if you're already American. I mean, they're not going to, although they have been actually making it harder for some Americans to get back into their own country. But if you're already American and you don't plan to give up your U.S. citizenship, fine, get the backup plans. If you're European and you don't plan to give up your European citizenship, fine, get the backup plans. The U.S. and to some extent some European countries are making it difficult for you to leave. When their taxes are too high and you want to go to Dubai or Malaysia to lower your taxes a lot, they're making it increasingly difficult. Why? All things point to they hate competition. So here's our business at Nomad Capitalist. We help you create and execute a bespoke holistic plan. If your thing is, hey, listen, Andrew, I really need to make sure I love going to Europe. Great. We're going to figure out how you can have that access to Europe, how you can get a residence permit, how you can get a passport, on top of the other elements that protect your freedom. If you say, listen, I don't really care about Europe, well, then we'll say, okay, let's do this instead. Maybe we save some money. The plans that we create are driven by you and your needs. And so that differs from hundreds of companies that are just in the business of offering citizenship by investment. And you go to them and they've got, maybe they sell 4 of the different Caribbean passports, or they do 6 different CBI programs. And, when all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. And their solution is, passport, passport, passport. Listen, some clients come to us, and I know, when I was involved, I'd say, in your situation, maybe you don't need a passport. And we just saved you $200,000, right? Here's what I would do instead. So when you come to us, nomadcapitalist.com/apply, you pay us a fee. We don't do the whole free consultation thing. A free consultation is a sales call. When you come to us, we call it a sales call. It's called an onboarding call. And if we can help you, we're going to sell you. And if we can't help you, we're going to tell you we don't want to sell you. We don't need the hassle. We're doing fine without taking on people who we can't help. But nomadcapitalist.com/apply is where you go if you want to have a holistic plan versus just going and getting a Caribbean passport. And to me, the two services illustrate the difference in why I'm not worried and why some people who are looking at this as a one-dimensional thing are worried. Oh my God, what happens if Europe cancels visa-free travel for Caribbean citizens? Well, if you're already, another passport holder that has European access, it may not matter. So if it's your backup plan, it may not matter, right? If you do this, it may not matter. Here's the way to mitigate it. Here's a different way to mitigate it, right? There's so many different things that we should go through in your situation versus just one-dimensional. Caribbean may lose visa-free. There's so many ways to look at it. That's what a bespoke holistic service addresses. Nobody can ever guarantee anything. I can't guarantee that anything happens, but I can tell you you're going to have the best chance possible by thinking this through and making a plan, including for the unknown unknowns, rather than just going and buying a product. We've had clients who've come over from some of the bigger companies. One guy's been waiting 2 years for his passport. They just can't get the paperwork through because the company barely lifts a finger to help you even file your application. And all they do is one thing. We have clients that got 15 different things in their plan, and we're helping them push it all forward at once. Nomadcapitalist.com/apply is where you go if you want that kind of service. You need $1 million in liquid assets or more. If you're just starting out, $500,000 in income will do as well, and we'd be happy to help you put together your plan. You need a second passport to protect yourself against the chaos in these countries that are trying to keep you out. We can help you do that.